Okay, so welcome to my talk on being efficient at the office. Hands up if you want to be faster at doing your job. Okay, that's most people, well done. This one might be a bit harder. Hands up if you want to not only be faster at doing your job, but also produce a better result. Okay, doing well. How about if you want to be faster at your job whilst producing a more productive and less risky result, and also save the trees? All right, people like trees in this room, that's good. As I'm sure you know, businesses around the world will spend billions of dollars to increase productivity by even 10%. It could be a new assembly line, a new ERP system, or various things like that. In my opinion, the best way to increase productivity by 10%, or any number, is just to make everyone in your office just more efficient at their jobs. So I'll start off with what this presentation isn't. This is not a series of things that you won't do. And I have scoured the internet for the past month in preparation for this, looking at tips and tricks. So the BuzzFeed generation stuff. 10 things you'll do in the office to become more productive. 12 things that you're not currently doing. And in that, I've realized that you get a lot of things that people just won't do. For example, stop multitasking. And we saw this tip about 15 years ago, when we were maybe getting about 2 text messages a day from our friends. And if you think about today, the amount of WhatsApp and Facebook and all the notifications you get, this is something that is an aspect of our daily lives, and we're not going to stop doing it just because of that. Some other ones I see will give you tips like get up early. I don't think anyone in this room is going to go away from this talk and start getting up early every day just because you've heard me tell you to do it. So the other stuff that I come across is vague concepts. So these are tips like be more creative. Well, what does that actually mean, and how's that going to impact you? Or commit to doing more. More what? How? These are not really practical tips. Instead, what I'm going to show you is a unique way to tackle productivity. So I'll start off with some useful theory. So there was a famous book released in 1989 called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. So this did really, really well, and it's regarded as a very good book, and Stephen is a very famous management theorist from this book. And it talks about 7 things that you can do, or ways you can treat your life to become more effective and efficient at what you do. For the purpose of this talk, I'm just going to skip to number 7, the last one. The other ones are also relevant, but I'm going to talk about number 7. And number 7 is an idea called sharpening the saw. And this is an idea that I don't hear used that often, but I really, really like it. What it means is that, imagine you've got someone sawing down a tree, and he keeps sawing it down, and he might be taking hours doing it, but he just wants to get it down as fast as possible. Whereas really, he's using a blunt saw. And he could take the 10 minutes to sharpen the saw and then get to a faster result, or alternatively, he could keep going with the blunt saw that he's got. And you might think that the most logical thing to do is to actually stop and sharpen it, but depending on the situation, that might not be an option available. And this is a very fundamental example, but this kind of thing does happen to us at work all the time. This idea that we're currently doing things inefficiently, knowing that somewhere out there is a way that we could do it better. But instead of finding out what that new way to do things better is, we just keep doing it the way we've always done it, because we're too busy to actually learn what the other way is. So we get into this cyclical process of doing things in not the fastest way, knowing that we could do them better, but still not having the time to commit to doing it more often. So this is the same idea of sharpening the saw. If you were to sharpen the saw, then you might take this as the immediate thing, but then you might, in your downtime, try and learn how to do things a little bit more effectively so that you get out of this cycle, and every time you keep improving and becoming more efficient and effective. So I'll keep bringing this up during the talk today. So I talked about habit number 7 of the 7 habits. There's also habit number 8. So you're wondering how that works? He actually released another book called The 8th Habit. A few years later, the 7 habits were so successful that he decided, I can not think of 7 more, but I'm just going to go with 1. And I'm going to write 400 pages on 1 habit. So that the 8th habit is find your voice and inspire others to find theirs. And that's something that resonates with me as well. And it's part of the reason why I'm giving this speech to you guys, because I feel like I found some productivity tips that are really valuable that I just want to share with everyone, so you guys can keep doing it yourselves as well.
You're going to write a book?
The 9th habit, yeah. All right, so let's look at a breakdown of our day in the office. The average hours per day that people spend on computers is 6 hours per day. Obviously, this varies from job to job, but that's the average. And imagine if we could focus on increasing our productivity during those 6 hours per day. So I was initially going to talk about other times, like being more efficient at meetings and other ideas, but I've decided to limit it to just these 6 hours, which is still quite a lot. So the theme of today's talk is combining these ideas that I've talked about, which is sharpening the saw with using software or using computers to get to immediate gains that you can walk away from this lecture knowing new things that you can actually physically use 6 hours per day. You ready? Okay. So who is this guy and why should you listen to me? I've talked about what I do in Cambodia, but a little bit about why I care so much about efficiency is because in my entire career I've been a consultant. I used to work at Deloitte in London, and over there I was charging out at a rate of $800 per hour. And then I moved to Cambodia, and I'm obviously not charging out that rate. But I'm still charging out per hour here. And so for me, it's really important that every minute that could be spent more efficiently is not something the client has to pay for. So I've always felt passionately, particularly since I moved to Cambodia, about how to get that extra step and keep sharpening the saw and keep getting more efficient. All right, I've got a proposition for you guys. This is an awesome piece of software that is going to do things that you wouldn't have been able to do without it. And it's really effective to use, really easy to pick up, and highly useful. The only catch is the average user on this software spends 40% of their time formatting. Is this something that people would like to invest in? Hands up. Who would like to use this software? Who would not like to use this software? Okay, so most people are saying no. Well, you might have actually heard of the software. Has anyone heard of this? Yes. Microsoft PowerPoint is a highly effective software that most of us use quite often. I'm using it right now. And it is something that the average user spends 40% of their time formatting on it. And I'm not talking about design or getting the pictures to look good. I'm talking about knowing what you want to put in, having the text and the pictures, and going from that to the final product. And that is 40% of the time. Aren't computers supposed to increase our efficiency? Isn't that why we started using computers? Before we were just doing regular slideshows where we would just write things down on a paper and everyone would be forced to watch it. But now we have this software and that's actually making us less efficient. So what are the reasons that people waste time? So in PowerPoint and Word, a lot of it is formatting, or also are you using the right application for the tool, which a lot of the times people aren't. In Excel, people looking through tables. Every time you look up and down a table, that takes a few extra seconds or minutes that you could be saving, especially if you do it 100 times a day like I do. And also inefficient data layouts. It takes a lot longer if you're working with the wrong data layout from the offset. Then you've got emails as well. So with emails, the biggest problems are searching takes a long time, prioritizing what to do and when as well, and actually actioning and sending out emails. So those are, in my opinion, some key reasons for time wasting. So I'm going to show you some tips and tricks. You guys have seen these. These are just regular ribbons from Microsoft Office. And all of us regularly look at these all the time, and they all have a lot of buttons that we never click on, which is fine because, as you can see, it feels a little bit overwhelming. The problem is, a lot of people assume that these buttons that you never click on are things that only apply to advanced users. They don't apply to me, so why should I bother learning? In actual fact, a lot of these things that we never click on are in fact ways to do things that we already do, just much faster and more accurately. So I'll show you an example of these tips. So if this is all great and Microsoft have created these amazing tools, then why don't they just tell us about them? Well, unfortunately, Microsoft has been suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. For about 10 years, it's had this problem because it lost a key member of staff. And you might remember this guy. So this guy would pop up in all of our Microsoft Office and ask us these annoying questions. And it really just wasn't working. And then eventually Microsoft, after 7 years it took them to realize this, they decided to get rid of the guy. So why was this guy not working? Because the reason he was there was valid. The reason he was there was so people could understand more about the tools they're not currently using, which is great. The problem is, you had to constantly look at him and tell him no all the time. Yeah. You had to click. You had to actually reduce your efficiency to grab your mouse and go to him and click no. And also, he's just really distracting. He was jumping around everywhere. Do you remember? So that's why Microsoft hasn't told us these tips. They are petrified of bringing back something like this guy. So, do people like copy and paste? Would you say copy and paste is a tool that makes you a lot more efficient than if you didn't use it? Yeah, getting a lot of nods. What about now? Do you like copy and paste? So what if I told you that there were a lot of other tools which are just as useful as copy and paste and just as good at saving time that you're not currently using? And these are the things that can really boost your efficiency. So I'm going to show you some of these. So how can you discover these tools? It's again going back to this idea of sharpening the saw. If you're ever doing an action or a series of actions, just ask yourself a few questions. Is there a faster way? Do I think that there would be a faster way of doing this? Could I improve the accuracy and precision of what I'm trying to do? Am I repeating any steps time and time again that I could somehow automate a bit more? And finally, is this entire action possible with less clicks that I currently do? And as you do that, you get this idea of sharpening the saw and applying that to the task at hand. So I'll show you an example in Excel here. So over here we have two sets of data. I want to get rid of this. So what I do is I'm going to select the data and hit my delete key on my keyboard. As you probably know, that means that I haven't gotten rid of a lot of the formatting. So I've still got my merged cells. I still need to go to unmerge my cells and go to no fill and get rid of my borders. And then it looks like I'm done, but as I start to enter some stuff here, I've still got some hidden problems. So what's happened is that I've spent, do you think that's a lot of steps to do one thing? Yes, I agree, it completely is. Is there a way to do it faster? Absolutely, but Microsoft didn't tell anyone about it. So I'm going to select the data over here, and I'm going to click in my Home tab. On the right-hand side here, it says Clear, and the first option there says Clear All. If I just click that one, it does pretty much everything that I want it to do in one go. Hands up if you've ever used that before. No? Probably about 20% there. Yeah, that's an awesome tip. Clearing and deleting is something we use all the time. And how did we realize that? Well, let's go back to how it was. I did a lot of clicks to get to that stage, didn't I? So just ask yourself, is this possible with less? Could I improve the accuracy? And by accuracy in this case, I mean that as I start typing in this cell, it's not deleted, so it's not accurate. And is there a faster way? Could I have just done all that stuff much, much faster? And as you saw, the answer is yes. It's in your Home tab, Clear All here. Great. So I'm going to bring up some data here. So this is data from a study that Microsoft did about how often people use commands in each of the 4 flagship Microsoft Office programs. And it's sorted from top to bottom. I can tell you that paste is number 1 in all of them, even though the ones above paste in Word are something that isn't relevant. But paste is the top one in all of them. And as you can see, clear is number 1, 2, 3, 4. So clear is the 4th most used tool in Excel. Clear is this idea of deleting the data. And in my opinion, 90% of the time you press the delete button in your keyboard, what you want to do is what I just showed you, which is this clear all. There are very few cases where what you actually want to do is keep all the formatting and get rid of the data. So this is just an example of how Microsoft are not going out to their customers and telling you, well, the 4th thing you'd use the most, maybe you should be doing it a completely different way. I've also zoomed in on this PowerPoint slide. That's another tool that I like using. So you can zoom in and move around the screen. It's quite nice. All right. So I'm going to talk about this concept of your tool belt. So your tool belt consists of actions in Microsoft Office that you might be using regularly. For example, I've got wrap text, borders here. I've got paste. I've got delete. And the last one is highlighting. There's always room for more tools. There's always a way that we can learn new things that can really, really increase our efficiency and our effectiveness. And remember, 40% of the time on PowerPoint is spent formatting. It's not as high on the other apps, but it's also way too high. And we want to get that down. So, shortcuts, I'll briefly mention. So, from the classes I've done, this is a list of the shortcuts that most people regularly use. So cut, copy, paste, bold, italics, underline, undo, save, find, delete, print, select all. And these are the ones that most of us use. There are some other ones as well. Does anyone want to shout out any shortcuts they use? What's that? T for? Sorry? To write. Yeah. So I've got Control T. And then you also have find and replace is one that's used quite often. Control H, find and replace. Yeah, so there's a few more that you can add here. Out of interest, has anyone seen someone do this in PowerPoint slideshow right out during the presentation?
I have.
Yeah, you've seen me do it. Anyone else? No, this is a really hidden trick that is so useful. Think about using PowerPoint in meetings and discussions, and you can just have it up on screen and take everyone's suggestion. Training, it's really valuable as well. One of the hidden tricks that is really, really functional. Okay.
Wait, how do you do that?
I might show you at the end. That's not in this. Yeah. So, in fact, Microsoft Office has over 500 shortcuts. Believe it or not, it's impossible to find an exact number. I've been looking for a while. And I'm not saying anyone should learn 500, but if you learn 20 or so more, then that can really make you a lot more effective at your day job. So, are you guys ready for some tips that will change your word? Great. Had a bit of a delayed laugh reaction. Thanks, Liana. All right. So I'll show you this. This works in PowerPoint, Excel, and Word. If I want to take the formatting that I've got in this Word and apply it elsewhere, then I can use this thing called the Format Painter. I know most of you probably already use this. I'm going to show you ways that it can be used a lot more effectively. So I click that, and then I click the next word that I want formatted. And then if I want to do it again, I have to select it, click the Format Painter, go again, keep going. Is that fast enough, or do you want to make it faster? Faster, okay. If you actually double-click the Format Painter, it will then lock everything that you've done, and it can do that. Wow, I didn't realize that would get a clap.
Thank God.
Yeah, I mean, that's not actually it. Do you want to make it faster than that?
Not possible.
Not possible. Okay, challenge accepted. If you think about what the Format Painter is, it's really just copying and pasting formats. So, what's the shortcut for copy? What's the shortcut for copy formats? Control-Shift-C, very good. Control-Shift-C will copy the formats, and then you can paste the formats with Control-Shift-V will paste the formats. And you can select as much as you want, and that will paste the formats. It's already locked. So that is another way, and that is the method that I use all the time. I don't have time to point at this guy. I need to use it with the keyboard. All right, what about if I want to just keep the text and get rid of, I've got all this fancy formatting, and I just want to keep the text. I don't care about it anymore. So what I could do is just like double click this and then go and select it like that, as we've learned. But I'm going to show you another way. This is another tool that's been staring you guys in the face for years, but no one's ever clicked on the button. Select it. In your Home tab, you choose this button. This is Clear All Formatting. Click that, and it just takes everything back to default. I'll show you that again here. So I can select just the text box in PowerPoint, clear all formatting, and it goes back to being the standard formatting of that text box. Does anyone, hands up if you used that before? Okay, a few, probably about a third of the room. That's fine. Does anyone know the shortcut for that? Control spacebar. Control spacebar will remove the formatting of everything you selected. Control spacebar. Great. Okay. Do you want to learn some new handy tricks with the Format Painter? We're not done yet. The Format Painter works with text, and a lot of people don't know it also works with objects. Yes, Tim?
Does control space also work in Excel?
That's a good question. It does not. It does something else in Excel. It works in PowerPoint, Word, Outlook, OneNote. It does not work in Excel, unfortunately.
Is there a shortcut for that?
There is no inbuilt shortcuts. If you're crazy like me, then you'll add it to this quick access toolbar, and you will then have a shortcut inbuilt. But there is no inbuilt shortcut. But good question. Sorry. I wish there was as well. Also, Control-Shift-C and V does not work in Excel. It works in PowerPoint, Word, and Outlook. And by the way, I have tested out most of these things, not just in Office, but also in Google Apps. So a lot of these things work in Google Apps as well. The Format Painter double-click does, as do a lot of the shortcuts. So here we've got some shapes. So if I select this, you may guess what I'm going to do. I can double-click the Format Painter and select multiple like that. Really, really quickly. And I'm going to show you another thing here. And this is a great trick. So what about if you want the color of this shape to be another color that you've got on the slide? So this is something that a lot of people try and get the RGB for, and it's a bit complicated. But actually, you can go to your shape fill, and you can choose this thing called the eyedropper here. And then you can choose any surface you want, and it can take that color. And that works with text as well. So you click the drop down in the text, choose the eyedropper, and choose any color you want to take that detail. That only works in 2013, PowerPoint 2013. Yes?
What's the shortcut for that? Is there a shortcut?
There is no shortcut. I wish there was. But yeah, it's an incredibly useful tool. It only works in PowerPoint 2013 though. So sometimes I will take my stuff into PowerPoint just to use that instead of typing out the RGB. All right. So Format Painter, it also works not only with text and with shapes, it also works with pictures. Select this picture. This one I've got a border around it and I've recolored it. I choose the Format Painter, double click, click one, click the other one. An incredibly fast way of reformatting your stuff. That's it for the format painter. That's about as much as I can get out of the guy. But I want to show you another trick. So I've got these three objects, and what about if I want them to be at the same height? This is a feature you'll get with PowerPoint like 20 times a day. So you can move them like that and like that, but it's slow, clunky, and not precise as well. The other thing you can do is you can select three objects. You can click on Arrange, Align, and you can choose Align Top, like that. And then everything jumps up to the same place. So that is an incredibly useful tool as well. Hands up if you use that. Curious. Wow, okay. If you guys use PowerPoint, then this is going to save you hours, just that one tool. And Align doesn't stop there. It does way more. So what about if I want to have these objects evenly distributed across the slide? I see Tim nodding his head. So you go to Arrange, Align again, and you have distribute horizontally and vertically. I'm going to go with horizontally here, and then it only jumped a little bit, but now these are perfectly distributed towards each other. So that is another really useful trick. All right. So that's Align and the Format Painter, the main things we've covered. Okay, I've got some more tricks here, and these are actually going to make copy and paste look like a train from the 1800s. So here I've got a lovely picture of a monkey, and I want to create 5 of them across. So I can actually duplicate this shape, which is the same as copy and then paste, by clicking the drop down next to copy and choosing duplicate. But the magic's not there. The magic comes in the next step. I move this shape to somewhere I feel comfortable, like there. And then, if I press Control D, D for duplicate, or I choose it here, again, it will actually separate it by the exact distance that I put it there before. And there it goes again. So that is another way to very quickly get them here. What am I going to do to get them to the top? Select them all and align top, like that, instantly. So the other thing you can do with Align is you can align different objects to each other. You can also align to the slide. So you can also click on Arrange, Align, and then I can click on Align to Slide, and then I can go Distribute horizontally, and it will actually go from the beginning of the slide up till the end with equal distance between them. Incredibly useful tool. Is that fast enough, or do you guys want to make it faster? Faster. Wow, you guys are an easy crowd to please. Okay, so I want to create more of this shape down here. This works with pictures as well. If I drag my mouse whilst holding down Control, I get this plus button that appears there, and I can drag it like that. And that will create a duplicate. The problem with the duplicate is that it might not be in line. However, if you hold down the Shift key, it must stay in line. So you can see I'm moving the mouse up and down, but PowerPoint, and this works in Word and Excel with objects, is forcing it to stay in line. So hold down Shift whilst you're doing that, and it's incredibly practical. Keep going, and get it very quickly. And then let's just do some alignment here. So align left. That's aligning to the slide. Let's undo that. Align to selected objects. And align exists not only in PowerPoint, but also Excel and Word. Only applies to objects, so pictures, charts, and shapes, but it is really, really useful. There you go. So there you can really do a lot of your tips and tricks that way. Oh, yeah. The place where to find it in Word and Excel and also PowerPoint, if you click in Format for your picture or your shape, you have this button here, that's the Align button. So that's the place where it sits for the other apps. I'm running out of time. All right, great. Okay, I'm going to show you another PowerPoint conundrum. And again, this tool works in Word and Excel as well. So I've got some pictures here with some text. That's not how I started though. I started like this. Got text in different shapes and boxes in different directions, and I've got pictures all like that, completely differently. How long do you think it can take to get from this to that?
10 minutes.
10 minutes, all right. Challenge accepted. So what you can do with PowerPoint is you can click and drag and select all these objects like that. And then, this is an incredible tool. Click in Picture, Format, go to this thing, it's called Picture Layout. Normally it says the text, but it doesn't for me. And then, all you have to do is choose the appropriate layout that you want, like that. So that has magically jumped all the text and the pictures in line. The final step is to take the text here in this thing on the right, and you can just cut and copy that as you please. Cut and copy, move up and down like that till you get what you want to get to. And then we also had the colors. Oh, I've got the wrong one there, but you get the gist. So change the colors a little bit. Well, I've got change colors here, so I just choose that one. That's all I need to do. Make this bigger. So this is something called Smart Art, and there's a lot more that it can do. It's also amazing for getting inspiration for text. You can actually choose your text in PowerPoint and choose Convert to Smart Art, and then it magically puts all the text into these different shapes. You can't see that well because I'm hidden, but it does just throw them in really easily like that. So it's a really useful tip to get inspiration. It's also the fastest way to go from text into shapes. That's what you want to do. And the fastest way to go back as well, because you can convert to text like that. There is a lot more that it can do, but that is just an introduction. It's only used by 1% of PowerPoint users, and it does also exist in Word and Excel. Insert Smart Art, exactly the same feature. It's really, really practical and saves a lot of time when you're preparing your slides. All right, so we've now got some additions to our formatting tool belt. So we've thrown in some things like the clear formats. We've got Smart Art. That one's Smart Art. This one is the Smart Art for picture layouts. This one is the Align tool. That's my favorite one. And this one is the Format Painter that we're using in new ways. Okay, so the next section is about printing. Think before you ink. So printing is something that everyone tries to consciously be aware of, but there's two ways to go about it. So this is what we had in my old firm, Deloitte. All we did to try and reduce printing was we would have our email signature saying, please consider the environment before printing. The problem is, when you get that email, you hit print straight away. And what happens? Page 2 shows only that line. This happened a number of times. At Excel Consulting, we try and reduce printing, and I don't mean something like this. I mean we physically print about 2 pages a month. I'm not talking about contractual or legal documentation. I'm talking about anything that you have together at the workplace. And that's not always possible for everyone, but I'm going to show you some tricks that people don't use that can really help you reduce your printing time. So ways to avoid printing. Excel is normally the culprit for printing. It prints 200 pages when you wanted things in one page. Electronic signatures. So nowadays, a lot of things are viable if you electronically sign them. You don't have to print them off, sign it, scan it in, and then throw your paper away because all you wanted to do was type in it. And my favorite, which is split the screen, keep it green. So I'll show you a couple. I'll jump to the last one because we are running low on time. So the last one, which is how to split the screen. So here I have an Excel file, and if I go to my view options, I can click this option that says new window, and now this says demo number 2, and my old file says demo number 1. So I have two files that do exactly the same thing. They're not that useful yet. However, what I can do is I can go to View and Arrange All, and then I can choose Vertical, Windows of Active Workbook, in this case. Press OK, and they jump right next to each other. And this is an incredibly useful tip for things like following instructions on one screen and doing it in the other one. And I'll just demonstrate that anything you do in one side affects the other one. So I'm going to make this into a yellow box, and I'm going to type some data in it. And then if I see on the other side, it's mimicked the exact movement. If you're using formulas, they're referring to another sheet. Equals sum. You can just choose, I haven't got any here, but equals sum of these two numbers. You can have one with one sheet open that is showing you something different in the same file. But using this trick alone has probably saved me printing about 500 pages in the last 2 years. This is incredibly useful. Being able to compare data. So I have my raw data at the beginning, and that compares to my final data. So this is a tip that exists in Excel, in Word, in PowerPoint, in Outlook. You can get it on Google Drive by duplicating a tab and dragging it to another window. It's an incredibly useful tool that hands up if you use that. Okay, so we've got about 5 or 6. Incredibly useful, can really save you so much time on printing. Some other tricks, if you want to make that even faster. So let's go back to square one. Let's open a new window. Now we've got two of the same. Now if I press my Windows key and my left arrow, it jumps to one side, and then I can choose what to put on the other side like that. So I'll show you that again. Let's go to another document here. Windows key and left key, and then it jumps to the other side like that. That is normally the way that I use it, and I find it incredibly efficient. The Windows and arrow shortcuts. Great, okay. I think I'll move on. So let's go back to our slide. So that was pretty quick. Excel, the first thing to do is set all your pages to print one page by one page. On my training course, I have a 3-step printing method with Excel that works 99.9% of the time, which I think is really useful. And then we had electronic signatures. I haven't shown you how to do that. You can do it with Excel and Word 2013, or there's third-party apps that can do it as well. And split the screen and keep it green as well. Now you've got a new tool belt, your green tool belt. So this is, you've got how to set Excel to print on one page, and also how to put a signature line and put a new window and arrange all. This other one, I'll show you this idea. So I skipped over this. So this is a screen recording that I've done, and that's what I'm doing right now. I'm taking a video of myself doing the screen. This I'm doing through PowerPoint. It actually exists in PowerPoint 2013 and more recent. The drawback with that is you don't have as many options as other things, but it does record audio, and it also, you can pause, stop, select the area of what you're recording easily. What I've started using this for, and this is a new idea that's my idea, goes as follows. We don't have speakers, but basically what I do is I record a video of a file that I'm handing over to someone else, like this, and I am saying, on this sheet you have relevant cells that have data from X, and then that feeds through to the next tab, and then I'm dragging my mouse and moving towards it to the next tab, and that feeds through to the final charts at the end. So this is an incredibly useful way to hand over documents, because number one, it means you don't have to go to a meeting about it. You can reduce your meetings. You can also reduce your printing. You can also reduce the time it takes you to write down what are the steps that you need to hand over, because you give someone a video and they can replay it at their own leisure as many times as they want. So it's something that I've started using, and in the last month I've probably avoided about 3 meetings because I've done this. So I know people use this kind of thing for training a lot. I've got some people from Amrita here who I've used this thing with before. I think it's really, really practical. Okay, we did these. Yep. All right, I'll show you one final tip, and then that's it. So here I've got some data. And I've decided to go from data like this to data like this. And I won't go through all the steps because we are running out of time. We are going to go over a little bit, so if you need to leave, please do. Sorry about that. So here, a lot of people will hide data. So they don't want to see these. They'll click on them, they'll right-click, and they'll hide, right? Everyone's done that before? Everyone's familiar with it? Well, that's something you should never, ever use, because hiding is really, really problematic. It's never clear to the user that you've hidden something. And there's an alternative which does the same thing, but much better. Can you see this? Can you see what I've got here? Expand, contract. That is a way better thing. Can you see that that's way more obvious that I've hidden the data? You can click on 1 for the highest level, 2 for the lowest level. How do I do that? Let's go back to our other sheet. So unclick unhide, and then select the data, go to data. In your outline section you have group. Click on group and you get that feature like that. Then you click 1 for maximum and 2. 1 for minimum view, 2 for more. You can have as many groups as you want. This feature does a lot more things, but I'm just going to explain the basics. That's incredibly useful, and people should be using that whenever they click hide. Next time you click hide, think about how much time you're wasting of the next guy who's picking up the file and forgetting to unhide. In fact, whenever someone sends me a file, the first thing I do is I select all, right-click, unhide. Second thing I do is unmerge cells, because I hate merge cells. They cause so many problems. And you can achieve the same result in other ways as well. But I don't have time to show you that. Great. So, group don't hide in Excel. There's actually a story that's quite a famous story. When Lehman Brothers crashed in 2008, Barclays took over its operations, and within that they took over a lot of bad deals and bad debt that Lehman Brothers had. What they didn't realize was that they were taking on an extra 179 bad deals than they had expected Why? Because of hidden rows in Excel. This is a true thing that actually happened. There were about 200 hidden rows in Excel, which meant that Barclays were kind of left in a way worse position than they'd agreed at the time. But Lehman Brothers weren't exactly in an understanding situation. So it's really, really important to try and avoid that. So, yeah, we've covered a couple of these things, this grouping and filtering. We skipped over that a little bit. The idea is software should function as fast as you function. So if you think by the time you've done it, it should be done. And it should be done through your keyboard shortcuts or through these things that you keep on learning and adding to your tool belt. Format super fast. Think before you ink. And glance and go with Excel. Try and reduce the amount of time that you have to spend looking up and down spreadsheets. And remember, these extra things that I've shown you and loads more that are available in Office are not things that only advanced users use. They are purely there because they're things we already do, but just much faster and much less risky. Some resources that are useful. So I love this book, Office 2016 for Dummies. I think it is fantastic. It's an easy read, and it really shows you a lot. It showed me a lot of the skills I've shown you today. I've got some websites here. The first one is PowerPoint. The next two are Excel. And otherwise, I have some purpose-built training courses. So I have corporate courses. I have individual training. And I've actually got a Microsoft Office course general starting this Friday, and an advanced Excel course starting on the 2nd of March. So if you're interested in either of those, please do let me know. Never stop sharpening the saw. Is there a faster way? Could I be more accurate? Have I repeated too many steps that I could be reducing? And is this thing possible with less clicks to get to the end goal? And this, by the way, is a collection of the books that I currently have in my bedroom that I've read in the last 2.5 years. And I got a Kindle about a year ago, so they are not featured on this. And this also doesn't include all the training courses online that I've done. So I am that really sad guy. Thanks for agreeing. Any questions? Thank you very much.